So I was just sitting here. It's a Saturday and I have nothing to do. And I was thinking this morning when I woke up that I was going to go to one of my favorite spots in nature locally and read a book. And here I am a couple hours later, still sitting at the computer, staring at the book, reading the book that I was going to read down there. But I just said to myself, okay, it's been like 4 hours. Let's get in the car, go down and read the rest of this. But then I thought to myself, why? Why do I feel like I have to, or not feel, because this word popped into my head as I was saying it to myself. Why do I feel pressured? Why do I feel pressure from myself or from whatever it may be? I'm guessing society's standards. But why do I feel like I have to go read this book in nature, but I can't read it in my room where I have all kinds of creature comforts? I have my refrigerator, my microwave, my bathroom, everything's right here. But I feel like I have to be one with nature to read this book. Because while I am reading the book in nature, I won't be observing nature. I'll just be reading the book. Yes, I'll know where my presence is. Is it so much that my apartment doesn't equal the presence of the outside world? Most likely. It's a good reason why I spend more time outside of my apartment than I do inside. Now, my apartment's actually a very nice apartment. I have a nice place. I'm very thankful for what I have. I'm sitting here trying to figure out, why do I feel like I'm being lazy? A lot of us have this. A lot of us will sit on the couch all day long and watch TV and eat snacks, and then at the end of the day we'll say, oh, man, I totally wasted the day, blah, blah. We'll feel bad about it. If not that same day, the next day you'll feel bad about it. But why do we feel bad about it? If you sat around your house all day long watching TV and eating snacks, you may look at it as being lazy. But did you work all week? When was the last time you did that? Do you do it all the time? If you do it all the time, that could be a problem. But if you work hard, or even if you just haven't rested in a while and you take a day of rest and you enjoy yourself and you laugh at some TV and you eat some pudding, and I eat a lot of pudding, so that's why I threw that in there. But if you're eating pudding and you aren't hurting anybody and you're not hurting yourself, then what's the harm? What would have been the difference if one of your buddies said to you, oh man, you just sat around the house and did nothing all day? And you said to him, yeah, well, what was I supposed to do? And he said, well, you could have went out and walked in nature, or you could have went to the mall, or none of those things are helping society. And then in reality, they're not really helping you as a person who's doing them. Not any more or any less, I guess. Well, probably less than if you just sat around and ate and watched TV and enjoyed yourself. But because society tells us that we're being lazy by just sitting around and doing nothing, we feel guilt and we feel shame. And that's silly. So, because the thing is, if I read here or if I go read in the woods, I'm not helping society any more or any less by reading in the woods than I am by reading it here in my bedroom. So where does that come from? Where was the programming, the conditioning that made me think that I would be achieving more for not only myself, but also for society by going out and reading the book in nature than I would by reading the book here? Or where was the conditioning put forth that the guy that's sitting there watching Netflix and eating pudding all day is being shamed by his friend because his friend somewhere along the line was conditioned to believe that what he was doing was wrong, and instead he should have been doing something active outside of the house? Now, if you have a friend that's building a house and he's short-handed and you decide to sit there and watch TV all day knowing that, now, I guess by societal standards I'd say you're a bad person. If you know about it but you chose not to help him, that's your personal choice. And if you have any guilt from that later on, then that's your own personal fault. That's not society's fault, it's your fault. But if you do go help him because you're afraid of feeling guilty the next day, what's the difference? Now, if your friend knows that you're at home doing nothing while he's sitting there sweating away and building his own house, and he knows that he's done you favors in the past, but you seem to neglect that, he will hold you accountable. But somewhere along the line, he was programmed and conditioned to believe that others should help him when he's in need because he's helped them when they're in need. And while that may be true, or at least I think that there's some kind of karmic response for that, it still doesn't negate the fact that if his buddy had worked 6 days all week very hard and then finally decided to take one day off and sit around, watch TV and eat pudding, he can't really blame him for not coming to work on his house with him because it wasn't his decision to build the house. It was the friend's decision to build his house. And if he decided to build his house at a time where he knew his other friend only had that one day off to relax, then that's selfish. He could have decided, well, I'm going to build a house every other day of the week. And then on that one day off that my buddy has, I'm going to see whether or not, I'm going to ask him whether or not he would like to help me. I'm thinking about doing it on that day too. And I'll put that decision in his hands. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to give that person guilt when they're like, well, I want to help you, but I really need some rest. And they're going to feel guilty about it because we've been programmed and conditioned to feel guilty when we say no to people and things. Think about that when you, at Christmas time, if you live here in the States and you walk up to any store and you see the person ringing the bell outside for the Salvation Army during Christmas. Because for some reason, the Salvation Army only collects money during Christmas. Why? Because they know that you're going to feel guilty when you don't do it. So think about that. Think about when you put money in. Even when you put money in, you walk away, I bet you think to yourself, I could have given more than a couple of quarters. Well, I could have given more than $5. So you're living with that guilt that's been programmed, conditioned into you. Or think about when you don't give any money at all. You don't give any money at all, and you walk away, it hits you maybe instantly, maybe it hits you 5 minutes later, maybe it doesn't hit you at all. But you feel guilt again. But it dissipates. The guilt dissipates. Now, not all guilt dissipates. I have many guilts that I still suffer from. But it dissipates in such manners such as that, or even small feasible things like, helping your buddy build a house. So he asked his friend, and his friend's like, well, man, I really got to tell you, I haven't had a day off in months, and I just want to sit around and do nothing and eat pudding. And the guy says, oh, okay, man, well, whatever. Thanks. Walks away. He's mad about it, and you feel guilty about it. But at the same time, if you're smart, if you're logical, not smart, but if you're logical, if you're in touch with your inner self or your awareness, you can start thinking to yourself, well, I get what he's saying, but why did he have to choose today? And he worked on his house 6 other days of the week. So what's the big deal if he takes a day off? And yes, I won't be able to help him tomorrow because I have to go to work. But why should I sit here and feel guilty about it that he chose to do this on the day that I wanted to take off? Anyways, I went off on a rant on that. But you see the programming and conditioning and all this? From the very beginning of me deciding to read a book here in my bedroom, or me to go outside and do it outside, there's a sense of guilt. I'm going to feel guilty. If I sit here all day long in this house, even if I'm doing productive things, say I clean the house or whatever, say I read the book and clean the house and then go back to reading the book, and then at the end of the day, I'm going to feel guilty because I didn't go out. Oh, I wasted the whole day. It was beautiful out. I didn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. That's silly. This is honestly just me just sitting here talking to myself about this, and then I figured I'd record it. Hopefully one person understands what I'm trying to get at. But that's it. Why does it matter? It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, if you can help somebody, if you know that you could help somebody, if you think that somehow you could better the world or better society or better the culture you live in by going out and doing something instead of sitting around and watching Netflix, if that one thing is weighing on your heart and your mind more than sitting around watching Netflix and eating pudding, then go do it. I'm not saying just sit around and eat pudding. I'm saying you have to weigh that out for yourself. But don't allow society to weigh it out for you. And do your best to not let the programming and the conditioning that they've brought you up into decide how you're going to feel about it. Feel what matters to you most, and then go from there. I love you all. Walk in light.